Hello to everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is Berta and I'm working at eBay in the alumni office. This is a new cafe. Sarah Cooke will talk about gender, and I would like to explain you how this session will work. She will give a presentation on what she's doing, what she's currently doing in her job, and then once she is over, the debate, the cafe will start. So you will be, as participants, the persons that if you want to raise questions to her, you just can go over it and start talking. For legal reasons, this chat, like this cafe, is being recorded just the first part of the cafe when Sarah will be talking in the meantime. But afterwards, the cafe and the debate will be off the record. So I would like to explain you that this initiative is a joint initiative that it was launched by the Alumni Council, which is the body that shapes the alumni policy here at eBay, and most of these of the people who takes part of this body is are alumni. So they had the idea to establish like a virtual place to talk about the career development of most of our alumni, and we started to do this in September, and every 2 weeks we have a person like an alumna or an alumni who is presenting the experience. So thanks for being here, and I give the floor to Sarah. Thank you for participating in this interesting initiative.
Berta, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to explain what I do, what the equality field is. It's broader than just gender equality. It covers a lot of different issues. So I might start off and just share the presentation here. So that you have something to look at while I speak to you as well. So basically, I did the Master in International Relations back in 2010. So it's been 10 years since I left eBay. And I kind of fell into the equality field a little bit by accident. You can see from my path to get here with my wonderful Yes Equality t-shirt. Before I had studied the International Relations Masters, I had done a BA in European Studies in Trinity College in Dublin. Then I worked in a variety of different jobs over the years, including in tourism for a number of years. And I finally did the Masters in International Relations as a way to kind of reconvert my career a little bit. So I had some work experience previous to the Masters, but I hadn't ever worked in IO or in anything similar to that before. Once I finished the Masters in eBay, I ended up working as a research assistant in CDOP, first as a trainee, and then I stayed on for another 6 months or so. And that was a really lovely opportunity because I got to work with fabulous people. I got to know some of the other eBay alumni better as well, which was really great. And I worked on some really interesting projects, namely on one called EU4Cs, which was a European project looking at security and development in different seas around Europe. And another one called the European website on integration, where I was kind of the person responsible for Spain and looking after how Spain was represented on this website, which gathered examples of migrant integration across Europe. After I was in CDOP, I moved to the Pompeu Fabra for a year, where I was the coordinator of their research group on immigration. And then that was at the end of 2012, so nearly 8 years ago now, and when I actually moved to Brussels for a position with the European website on integration as the coordinator of that website. So that was a really good experience where I basically spent 9 months coordinating the website from a European perspective. It was really interesting to see what it was like at the Spanish level, and then what it was like to compare across the European level. So that kind of was my first experience managing something at a European level, which I really enjoyed. And I spent 2 years with the migration policy group. When I finished up the stint, as I was on maternity cover, when I finished up that, I started working on another European project which looked at the education of children with a migrant background. And then I also worked on another project on political participation. So basically, both in CDOP and in the migration policy group, I was always focused on different European projects. It was always very much communication focused. I speak French, Spanish, and German, and some Catalan after my time in Barcelona. So English is my main language, and that helps for sure. But other languages have definitely given me it's been useful in order to get into European projects, let's say. And then for the past 5.5 years now, since the beginning of 2015, I've been working in the European Network of Equality Bodies. And basically there I work as the communication officer. And it's a really, really fascinating job. I'll go into a little bit more details of what we do and what equality is now. But I really am very happy where I am. And what's interesting with the kind of path that I've taken since I did my BA in European Studies many years ago, having done the master's as well, is that I never really knew much about the equality field, to be honest. I mean, when I did the master's, we focused a lot on, I did the cooperation and development track, which was really interesting. And we looked at human rights a little bit. But because it was more internationally focused, we didn't really come across the equality side of things so much. So that's what I want to present a little bit to you now. And that's why I think it's interesting, because it's very broad. I find it fascinating. And it's so, it's in the news constantly, even though we don't necessarily realize it. So if we look at the next slide then, what I mean by equality is basically the right to to be treated equally by everybody. So in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it's linked to Article 1, which is all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. And that article, the right to equality and the freedom from discrimination, is the only right which is set out in all of the core UN human rights treaties. So at an international level, equality is everywhere, and it is the foundation, the cornerstone of human rights all the time. At the European level, it's one of the core European values, and it's governed by 2 different legislative frameworks. So within the European Union, within the EU27, and within the Council of Europe area. At national level then, each country has set up an equality body, which basically has to support victims of discrimination and is there to promote equality based on race and ethnic origin, gender, and usually also age, disability, religion or belief, and sexual orientation, plus possibly a list of many other things as well. The way equality legislation is organized at European level, most of the ones within the EU27 are linked to the equality legislation directly, and they were obliged to set up an equality body which focused on gender and race, but they could go beyond that at national level if they so decided. So every European country has at least one, some have more. In Spain there are 2, for example. And what I really find interesting about the equality bodies is that they really are there to support people, the victims of discrimination. I can move on to the next slide now so you see a little bit more about what they do. But they're basically there to investigate cases of discrimination that people bring to them, or at a more broad level as regards strategic discrimination. They're there to offer support, particularly in legal cases, to people who think that they might have been victims of discrimination. They're there to give information so that people understand what sort of rights they have. They promote equality generally so that people understand that equality is a value and that we should all respect each other. They also monitor and report on discrimination cases more broadly, usually representing that to their parliaments. And they conduct research, obviously, and then they engage with a wide range of different people at national level, and often they also have local offices where they can engage with the NGOs and the schools and the businesses and everything in that area. So that's the national equality bodies, which are in each of the European countries, and then some of the accession countries as well. And I work within the network of equality bodies at a European level. So basically, we bring together 49 members across 36 countries, more or less. And we offer support to them when they have problems. For example, our Polish member is always under threat from their government. At the moment in Hungary as well, they're planning to merge two equality bodies. That was announced yesterday. They want it done by the end of January. So there's basically a lot of support that we can offer from the network, from the Secretariat, which is where I'm based, and within the other members as well around Europe. We give them the opportunity to network. We organize a lot of capacity building events for them on many different grounds and on many different issues, like artificial intelligence, like ethnic profiling, like how to tackle sexual harassment in the workplace, like tackling anti-Muslim hatred, like how to try and promote equality for trans and intersex people. It's really, really broad. And within EQUINET, then we also do a lot of work and kind of put together publications to spread knowledge and share information about the work and experience of equality bodies based on the cases that they've received. So the European Commission funds us. They're the main funder for us, plus we have membership fees from the members. And basically the focus is really on trying to get the knowledge from the ground, what happens at national level, and then bring that to the policy level. So we give expert advice and we promote gender equality. But what I really like is this link between the national level on the one hand, which we get the information through the equality bodies, and the sort of European and international level on the next. So that's what I will go to here. And now it's also interesting for you to see where you could possibly get into, or what spaces are available for job opportunities and things like that. Because as EQUINET, we work really between the international, wider Europe, and especially the European Union focus, and then, like I said, the national level with the equality bodies. So some of the institutions that we engage with a lot include at UN level, the Office of the High Commissioner, who are based in Geneva, and then they have a regional office here in Brussels. We work with them a lot on different issues. For example, ahead of Human Rights Day on the 10th of December, we'll be organizing a small campaign with them. We engage to a lesser extent with the OSCE, the Office for Democratic Institutions and Human Rights. But we will engage with them when there's a given topic on equality issues that we can engage with. And at the Council of Europe level, the European Court of Human Rights is obviously very important to us. The Commissioner for Human Rights is a good ally, and the Commission for Racism and Intolerance, they really analyse at national level how things are going as regards racism and equality more broadly, and they give country reports to each of the countries, always talking also about the equality body included. And within the European Union then, as I mentioned, the European Commission is our main funder, that's DG Justice and Consumers. And we have a new commissioner for equality for the first time in this current commission. Her name is Helena Dalli. Today they just launched a strategy on LGBTIQ, which is really useful for us and for the equality bodies to understand how they should advance in the future. We work with the Court of Justice of the European Union. We recently brought a third-party intervention there from the experience of the equality bodies. The European Parliament obviously is very important as well. A couple of weeks ago, we had a roundtable working with MEPs there to look at the future of equality legislation in Europe. And then there's the European Union agencies, which focus on fundamental rights and on gender equality. So we work very closely with both the FRA and EIGE. And especially the FRA and EIGE, they're really the place to go to for a lot of the research on different equality topics. The European Parliament also has a research unit where they kind of put out some information, and obviously the European Commission has Eurostat, and they get a lot of different publications done through different ways and through all of the projects they finance. So the European Union focus is our main one, but we definitely engage with other areas. And I think in general, the types of jobs that you can find in the institutions are usually policy, legal, and communication type of jobs. Then if we look at the other side of things, we also engage a huge amount with civil society organizations. And I think they're usually a lot more ground specific. So there is one in Brussels, which is called the European Social Platform, and they kind of gather a lot of the other ones that I'm about to mention but the NGOs are really very, very ground focused. And so what's really interesting for us is bringing them together and actually getting them to speak to each other about the different issues, because a lot of the time the same equality issues will affect people in slightly different ways. Whether you're looking at issues of access to housing, it might affect somebody from a certain race or ethnic origin because they don't get it, for example, because of the color of their skin or because they're Roma. Or it might equally affect somebody who is disabled because they don't have access into the building and things like that. Or they might be too old or too young to be given access because people say, no, we don't want you living in this house. So similar issues will affect different people in different ways. And we work a lot with, depending on what, capacity building seminar we're organizing. For example, if we organize one on Roma, we will definitely reach out to both ENAR, the European Network Against Racism, and then the two Roma organizations. If we're looking at something on gender, we will always reach out to the Women's Lobby or the European Network of Migrant Women. When we're now organizing this event coming up soon on trans and intersex issues. So there we're talking to ILGA Europe, to Transgender Europe, to OII, the Organization of Intersex People, and so on. The same with disability, age, religion and belief. And economic and social status is also something that's quite popular, let's say. And one I probably didn't include here is on migration and nationality issues. So you'll also have NGOs which focus on undocumented migrants, for example, or stateless people and things like that. So I think it's really interesting from a job point of view to realize the wide range of different organizations that are out there. The types of jobs are very broad as well. There's still the policy, legal and communication aspects, but there's also aspects of event management, project management, administration or coordination, which are interesting to think about. And I think, at the moment, we know a lot about Black Lives Matter, for example, about the Me Too movement. There are things that the NGOs in particular will get very engaged in. So I think if you're interested in a kind of a more activist approach to your work, then working in the NGO field should be of interest to you. But it is often less secure than some of the institutions, but it's also less bureaucratic. So you have the opportunity to actually push ideas and suggestions forward more easily, because they're usually very small organizations, while the institutions that I looked at before are a little bit more hierarchical, let's say. As regards the reasons why I enjoy working in the equality field in particular, well, the people are lovely. Like, I don't know, for those of you who work in other fields, if you're in security now or wherever, but the people who work in equality are really passionate about what they do. They believe that their job is to help people, and they really make an effort to do that every day, and it shows. They're lovely. Like, they're really, really lovely. So I've made a great collection of friends all around Europe. We have, members from Ireland, from my home country to Macedonia, from Norway down to Cyprus. And it's really a great way of meeting people. That's what I love about the European network field in general. It's a great way to meet people. I get to meet people from the institutions that I mentioned, to the NGOs, to the equality bodies themselves. And that's just a really nice broad picture of different types of people all working towards the same objective. I love being able to travel usually. So a lot of the work that we do, like I said, is capacity building events. So we focus in particular on organizing an event in a given place so that we can get to know the member who is based there, the equality body who is based there, get to know a little bit about what's happening in their country. For example, one time we were in Romania, and it was just the beginning of these big demonstrations against the corruption that was happening in the government there. So you get to hear a little bit more about it at a national perspective, at a local perspective, which is really interesting. So I think I've been in my job now for 5.5 years, and I'm still learning every day. The different fields and the different grounds of discrimination are so broad. They change so much. And there's an awful lot of attention given to them at different times, and the differences from one country to the next are really very real. In Ireland, for example, you saw the picture of me at the beginning with my Hello Equality, or Equality, Yes Equality t-shirt. That was from the 2015 referendum for marriage equality, which is a really positive, very wonderful story, because in Ireland, marriage equality was always very contested, and we're a very Catholic, traditional, kind of conservative country normally, but that showed that actually with good communication and a good story, we could change people's minds. And then we have what's going on today in Poland, for example, or in Hungary, where they have huge discussions around the concept of gender identity and about LGBTI free zones and all this. And you see that the realities in Europe are so different. So it's fascinating to just be able to see the whole selection of different things that are happening and the different issues that are at stake in different countries. So that's really why I like working in the field. And then in particular on communication issues, I've gotten to learn an awful lot about positive narratives and about storytelling and trying to put the message of equality out there in a way that is understandable and makes sense, and try to sell that in a way that that tries to get people on board. So I think that's always very fulfilling. Not always easy to do, but very interesting. And like I said, I keep learning all the time, so it's great. And then as regards tips, if any of you wanted to get into this field, learn a little bit more about it or whatever, there are a few options. You know, sign up to the newsletters and to the social media accounts of the organizations that you're interested in. You can also kind of volunteer in different sectors, or try and it, you know, if you actually wanted to work in the field, simultaneous applications through traineeships and sign up to everybody is doing online conferences at the moment, so sign up to some of the conferences and try and get some learning in that way. And then especially for anybody who wants to develop more engagement on this issue, there's a lot of focus on youth voices in general at this level. Fundamental Rights Agency tomorrow, for example, have a discussion around what our fundamental rights are. They're going to be looking at hate speech in education and things like that, and they're really trying to reach out to young people in particular to join the conversation and to give your opinions. So whether it's a field that you would like to get engaged in, to have your say because equality matters, because people's rights matter, then please go ahead and do that. Or whether it's something that you want to get into from a professional point of view, feel free to contact me and ask me more about that. But I think it's definitely worthwhile. It's something that I find tiring at times, to be honest, but what job isn't? It can be very intense, but it's really, really fascinating and just a really fulfilling field to be in. So I'll finish up sharing with you my LinkedIn profile if you wanted that, and my email address, and basically say the floor is open for questions.